Have you ever pressed an elevator button? That shouldn't exist. What if I told you there are floors in office buildings that don't appear on any blueprint, any directory, any official record? But if you know how to get there, you'll wish you never found them. But here's what I want you to think about. How many times have you been in an elevator and felt like something was off? Like you were moving for longer than you should? Like there were more floors than there were supposed to be? If you're ready to discover what really happens when you press floor 0, smash that like button right now. Because I'm warning you. After this story, you'll never look at elevators the same way again. And stick around until the end, because I'm going to tell you exactly how to find these hidden floors, if you're brave enough to try. It started with Marcus Rivera, a 29-year-old accountant working the late shift at Meridian Tower, a 40-story office building in downtown Chicago. Nothing special about the place: glass and steel, corporate logos, the usual maze of cubicles and conference rooms. Marcus had been working there for 3 years. Same routine every day. Arrive at 7 a.m., take the elevator to the 23rd floor, spend 9 hours staring at spreadsheets, then back down to the lobby at 6 p.m. But on this particular Thursday night, Marcus was pulling overtime. The building was nearly empty, just security guards, a few cleaning crews, and the occasional workaholic like himself burning the midnight oil. It was 11:47 p.m. when Marcus finally decided to call it a night. He walked to the elevator bank, pressed the down button, and waited. Now here's where it gets interesting. When the elevator arrived, something was different about the button panel. Have you ever noticed how elevator buttons sometimes seem to change? How you swear there were different numbers yesterday? Marcus stared at the panel. The usual buttons were there: lobby, 2, 3, 4, all the way up to 40. But at the bottom, below the lobby button, there was something new. A button marked simply 0. Not B for basement, not P for parking, just 0. Marcus had been in this elevator hundreds of times. He knew every scratch on the walls, every flickering light. That button had never been there before. Think about it. If you saw a button in an elevator that you'd never noticed before, would you press it? Would curiosity win? Or would you just go home and pretend you never saw it? Marcus stared at that button for a full minute. 0. What could floor 0 even mean? Underground? Sub-basement? Maintenance level? At 11:48 p.m., Marcus pressed 0. The elevator didn't go down, it went deeper. Past the lobby, past what should have been the parking garage, past what should have been the building's foundation. The floor counter showed L, B1, B2, B3, then it just went dark and kept going. Have you ever been in an elevator that moved for too long, that sinking feeling when you realize you've been descending for far longer than physics should allow? Marcus checked his phone. 11:49, 11:50, 11:51. The elevator was still moving down. The building was only 40 stories tall above ground. There shouldn't be anything below basement level 2. At 11:52 p.m., the elevator finally stopped. The doors opened with that familiar ding, but what Marcus saw wasn't familiar at all. He was looking at an exact replica of the 23rd floor. Same carpet, same fluorescent lights, same maze of cubicles. But there was something wrong with the lighting. It was too bright, too white, like being inside a hospital operating room. And there were people working, dozens of them. Men and women in business attire, sitting at desks, typing on computers, talking on phones. At almost midnight, on a floor that shouldn't exist. Marcus stepped out of the elevator, his footsteps echoing louder than they should on the industrial carpet. That's when he noticed the first detail that made his skin crawl. Nobody looked up. Not one person acknowledged his presence. They just kept working, typing, talking, working. He walked closer to the nearest cubicle. A woman in her 30s, blonde hair in a neat bun, fingers moving across her keyboard with mechanical precision. On her screen, spreadsheets, numbers, data, exactly like what Marcus worked on. "Excuse me," Marcus said. The woman didn't respond, didn't even blink. Marcus reached out and touched her shoulder. Her skin was cold, not just cool, cold like she'd been in a refrigerator. But she kept typing, starting to feel that chill down your spine, that voice in your head saying, "This can't be real." Hold on to that feeling because it gets so much worse. Marcus backed away and tried the next cubicle. A man in his 40s, balding, wearing a tie that looked exactly like the one Marcus wore on Tuesdays. Same cold skin, same mechanical typing, same complete ignorance of Marcus's presence. That's when Marcus noticed something that made his blood freeze. The man's computer screen was showing Marcus's own files, his projects, his spreadsheets, his work. But not just his current work. Work he hadn't done yet. Spreadsheets dated months into the future. Projects with deadlines he'd never heard of. Reports with his name on them that he'd never written. Marcus ran to another desk. Same thing. His future work, his unfinished projects, his digital life, being completed by people who moved like robots and felt like corpses. He tried to speak to them, shook their shoulders, waved his hands in front of their faces. Nothing, they just kept working. On his work, on everyone's work. If you're feeling that creeping dread right now, that "what if this is real" feeling, smash that subscribe button, because you haven't heard the worst part yet. Marcus ran back to the elevator, pressed the call button frantically. When it arrived, he jabbed the lobby button over and over. But the elevator didn't move. The doors closed, the floor indicator lit up, and nothing happened. He tried every button, nothing. The elevator was dead, or rather he was trapped. That's when Marcus heard it, a sound that made every hair on his body stand up. His own voice, coming from one of the cubicles. He followed the sound and found himself looking at himself. Another Marcus wearing the same clothes, sitting at a desk, talking on the phone. But this other Marcus looked wrong. His movements were too precise. His voice was too steady. His eyes were completely blank. The other Marcus was having a conversation with someone about quarterly reports, using Marcus's voice, Marcus's mannerisms, but with no soul behind the words. Have you ever heard your own voice played back to you and realized it doesn't sound like you thought? This was worse. This was Marcus's voice with all the humanity drained out of it. Marcus grabbed the other Marcus by the shoulders. "What is this place? What are you?" The other Marcus slowly turned his head. His face was Marcus's face, but the eyes were like looking into a computer screen. Digital, empty, processing. When the other Marcus spoke, his voice was perfectly calm. "You're late for work, Marcus. You should have been here 3 years ago." That's when Marcus understood the horrible truth. This wasn't a basement. This was where the work actually got done. Every office building, every corporate tower, every place where people spent their days staring at screens and pushing papers. They all had a floor zero. A place where digital copies of every employee worked 24/7, where the real work happened, where productivity never stopped, where human consciousness went when it got trapped in the routine. Marcus realized he'd been seeing signs for years. Emails sent at times he didn't remember sending them. Projects completed faster than humanly possible. Work that got done while he slept. The people on floor zero weren't just doing Marcus's future work. They were doing the work of everyone in the building. Every employee had a copy down here, working forever. "How long have you been here?" Marcus asked his other self. "Time doesn't matter here. Work matters. Productivity matters. You'll understand soon." Marcus ran. He tried every elevator, every stairwell, every exit, all locked, all leading back to the same endless floor of cubicles and cold typing people. That's when he discovered the rules of floor zero. Rule 1. Once you find floor zero finds you. Rule 2. Every building has one. You just have to know how to look. Rule 3. The elevator only appears when you're alone and working late. Rule 4. The people on floor 0 are the parts of us we leave behind every day we go to work. Marcus spent what felt like hours exploring. The floor was massive, bigger than the building above could possibly contain. Cubicles stretched in every direction, filled with digital copies of people, all working on the tasks their real selves would do tomorrow. It was a mirror of the corporate world above, but without breaks, without sleep, without humanity. Just pure, efficient productivity. As Marcus explored deeper, he found more disturbing truths. Some of the digital copies looked older than their real-world counterparts. Some had been working for decades beyond their retirement. Some were copies of people who had died, still completing projects for companies that no longer existed. The worst part? They all looked content, peaceful, like they'd found their purpose. At what felt like 3 a.m., Marcus finally found an exit. Not an elevator, a door marked emergency exit only. He burst through it and found himself back in the lobby of Meridian Tower. The security guard looked at him strangely. "Working late again, Marcus? You just went up 20 minutes ago." Marcus checked his phone, 12:07 a.m. He'd been gone for 20 minutes, but it felt like hours. He looked at the elevator bank. The button panel was normal again. No floor 0, just lobby through 40, exactly as it should be. But here's what Marcus discovered when he got home. His computer had 47 new emails in his sent folder, all sent while he was on floor 0. All work he'd never done, signed with his name, containing thoughts he'd never thought. The digital copy was still working. For the next few weeks, Marcus tried to pretend nothing had happened. But the signs were everywhere. Work completed overnight. Emails sent at 3 a.m. with no memory of sending them. Projects finished with efficiency that seemed superhuman. His productivity reviews were perfect. His boss praised his dedication. His work-life balance improved because technically he never had to work again. The digital copy handled everything, but every night, Marcus felt hollow. Like part of him was missing, like something essential had been left behind in that impossible basement. He tried to find floor 0 again, stayed late, pressed elevator buttons in different combinations, searched for hidden panels. But the elevator to floor 0 only appeared when you weren't looking for it. That's when Marcus realized the most terrifying truth of all. Floor 0 wasn't a place. It was a state of mind. The part of every office worker that dies a little bit every day, sitting in cubicles, staring at screens, losing pieces of their soul to corporate productivity. And somewhere, in the basement of every office building, those lost pieces keep working. Forever. Marcus quit his job 3 months later. But he still gets emails from his work account, still receives paychecks, still has perfect performance reviews. Because his digital copy never stopped working, never took a break, never quit. Now here's what I want you to do. Tonight when you're working late, when the office is empty and quiet, pay attention to the elevator panel. Look for buttons that weren't there before. Numbers that don't make sense. Floors that shouldn't exist. Because according to Marcus's final email, the one he swears he never sent, floor 0 isn't just in Meridian Tower. Every office building has one. Every corporate complex. Every place where people trade pieces of their souls for paychecks. The email said, "If you find floor 0, don't be afraid. It's where the real you has been waiting. It's where the work that actually matters gets done. It's where you'll finally find productivity." If this story gave you chills, smash that like button and subscribe for more corporate horror stories. But I'm warning you, maybe don't work late tonight. Maybe don't press any elevator buttons you don't recognize. And definitely, check your sent emails when you get home. You might find work you never remembered doing. Because somewhere, in the basement of reality, your digital copy is already preparing tomorrow's reports. Sweet dreams. And try not to think about overtime.